Greetings, folks. This is DC Investing. I've reached financial independence and I'm talking about topics to help other people also achieve financial independence. And the thing I wanted to talk about today is something called the marshmallow experiment. And what the history of this was is in 1970, a group of researchers at Stanford did conduct an experiment on young children where they would place the child in a room, put a marshmallow on the table, then say, you can eat this marshmallow if you want to, but if you'll wait for just a little bit, I'm going to leave. And when I come back, if you have not eaten the marshmallow, then that's great. And I will give you 2 marshmallows. But if you want, you can eat the marshmallows. It's up to you. And so the researcher would leave the room for about 15 minutes. They'd come back and they just kind of take a note of, did the child eat the marshmallow or did the child not eat the marshmallow? And then that became just an interesting study. But it didn't end there. They kind of tended to follow these kids over the course of their life at 10-year intervals or something. And what they noticed was something interesting, that over time, the kids that could wait to not eat the marshmallow but then get 2 marshmallows seemed to have better results in life. It said they ended up having higher SAT scores. They ended up achieving more education in their life. They had lower body mass index, which I thought was interesting. They had better marriages. So overall, there was something that connected the ability to have delayed gratification with how successful folks were over the course of their life. And so that's kind of an interesting study. I think later on there were some other studies that kind of revisited that, that said, how much does, background affect the kids? How much does family dynamics affect the kid? And there certainly were some environmental things that also went into this to be able to have delayed gratification or not. So it wasn't just genetics of how kids got born with this, although I do think there was something, some portion of it had to do with genetics for could the kids delay or could it not. So, I think you can both control your environment to get an outcome, and also you're born with various gifts and abilities also. We're not all equal in this life when we come into the world, and that continues throughout our existence as well. So when I thought it was interesting, as I read a little bit more, they said they watched the kids to try to see what they would do in order for them to not eat the marshmallow. And they said, we noticed some behaviors like the kids would take their hands and cover their eyes so they didn't have to look at the marshmallow, or they would sing songs, or some of them leaned over and rested. They looked away from the marshmallow. They fell asleep. One of them did. Or they fidgeted. They just tried to keep themselves from not having to look at that marshmallow, because it seemed like looking at the marshmallow, it looked really yummy and they wanted to eat it. So I think there's something you can learn from that. If you're trying to achieve a goal, the goal is difficult, or maybe if you're trying not to spend the money that you have so that you can then invest it, you got to find ways to not focus on, I guess, spending money. Like they make a suggestion, make where your money goes go automatically so you don't see it all the time. Like the portion that goes into your checking account or Venmo account or PayPal account or whatever people used to pay these days, make it small so you just never see a big balance. Some people say use cash because there's an emotional feeling you get when you spend down your cash that doesn't happen the same with a credit card swipe. So one skill that you might be able to learn for yourself is how to put your money in places that make it difficult to get to it, and easier to invest. So, if your paycheck splits apart into multiple pieces, and your checking account only gets a certain amount and your investing account gets another amount that is harder for you to access, that is a way so you just don't see it. You're not able to spend it. You've got to wait a day or two to transfer money into your account in order to spend it. Don't use your credit cards. That may be a way to be able to delay your gratification, to be able to get what you really want longer term. And us in the financial or the FIRE community, we want to be able to have financial freedom so that we can do the work that we want to or choose not to work. And it's a long-term endeavor that takes a lot of effort, lot of time and a lot of delayed gratification to get to where we want to be. And so maybe some other skills are just practice doing hard things. If it's difficult to get up every morning and exercise, well, you can practice doing something difficult, getting up every morning and exercising. If you don't like to study, you can force yourself every day. I'm going to study. I don't like it, but I'm going to study because I see the results someday. If you don't like saving money, practice saving money, forcing yourself to put part of your paycheck someplace every paycheck, year after year, because delaying the gratification or forcing yourself to do difficult things can build character that is the type needed to be able to achieve some long-term goals. And eventual financial independence is certainly a long-term goal. For most of us, it takes many years of delayed gratification where we're not spending the dollars that come into our account, and instead we're putting them into investments, because we know eventually those investments grow into larger dollars for our pockets and give us the lifestyle that we're shooting for. So you can look up that study if you wish to. There's some interesting things, kind of, do a self-introspection. Are you the type of person that would eat the marshmallow, or are you the type of person that would stare at the marshmallow but not eat it so that you could have two marshmallows when the researcher came back? And maybe by doing that introspection, you can learn a little bit about yourself. And if you're the type of person that always eats that marshmallow, you can make a conscious, concerted effort to change some behaviors in your life so that you can delay your gratification to be able to achieve things that you really want to long term. So let me know in the comments, what are you? Are you a marshmallow eater, or are you a marshmallow saver? What's your personality? And how do you think that personality has affected your overall saving and investing strategy for FIRE? Be curious to see what you think. Like, subscribe. Again, this is DC Investing. Thanks.